You're listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 15 years experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter and make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live every Thursday. Jeff, I was going to call the manufacturing industry the manufacturing agency. Don't know where that came from.
All right.
Yeah.
We can roll with it. We wouldn't have made fun of you for too long.
No, not at all. Not at all. I figured best case scenario, just freeze momentarily.
It's kind of like a glitch.
Yeah.
Glitch in the matrix there.
My brain just shut off in fear and panic. But how are things otherwise?
David, I'm really cool today.
Yeah.
I feel really cool.
But you are like physically cool.
Much cooler.
Yeah.
Yes. Much cooler than ever before. We finally got the AC fixed in the office. Mm-hmm. It's quite bearable. So hopefully at the end of the podcast, you won't feel this like decline in our energy as we were just got it like sucked out of it by the heat in here. So
yeah.
Hopefully we can keep it going the whole time.
Anna, it is weird nice in here. Almost too cold, but we can't say that. And it also just kind of sheds a little light on A, how long things have been bad on the roof, and B, just how much complaining it takes to get the building owners to really do anything.
Should we call them and tell them it's too cold in here now?
Yeah, no, it's
perfect.
You know, the maintenance guy comes in like he's your savior. He's like, we did it, guys. And I'm just like, we've been complaining about this for more than a year. So excuse me if I don't thank you. You know, just like, yeah, man, about time. But before we get started with our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, Big Commerce. And we're back. And just a reminder that Big Commerce provides modern e-commerce technology that works with your existing systems. ERP, OMS, CRM, no problem. Whatever existing business tools and technologies you use today, Big Commerce can integrate using pre-built one-click integrations or customize your automation with its APIs. Make your move to Big Commerce today. Our first story this week. Threatened by shortages, EV makers race for lithium supplies. The race is on for white gold. Automakers are in our dead heat to lock in supplies of once obscure lithium. The global competition is rife with challenges and has many scrambling. A lithium shortfall could stall plans to ramp up EV sales, and the entire process is full of confusion, fear, and general anxiety. GM's chief financial officer, Paul A. Jacobson, said, quote, "We already have that risk of not being able to get enough. So GM went straight to the source and bought stakes in lithium miners. Ford has signed contracts with lithium suppliers on 2 continents, and Volkswagen and Honda are forming recycling ventures. Global lithium output should triple by 2030, but EV sales will likely surpass supply. Each battery requires about 17 pounds of lithium. Plus, it's not even thinking about the cobalt, nickel, and other metals. And interested parties on the government side aren't exactly playing nice. The issue is yet another straw on the U.S.-China relations camel's back. Canada ordered 3 Chinese companies to sell lithium mining assets due to security concerns, and Indonesia, Chile, and Zimbabwe are trying to get the most out of their materials by requiring miners to invest in refining and processing before they can even export. So, Jeff, that said, it's a rush.
We're screwed. Forget it. Throw the EVs out. We can't do it.
Yeah, back to the drawing board.
No, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different issues here when you look at just the environmental concerns from mining. We've talked about that. A lot of these deals are really interesting that you see the OEs going right to the source, literally, in terms of trying to source these materials. You throw in the trade wars. Yeah, there's a lot of different moving pieces here, without a doubt. I think one of the more positive or saving graces here is one of the things that we don't talk about a lot. We talk about it, yeah, we need to do this, but I think the realities of recycling as a potential solution here are much closer than we want to grab onto. First of all, we're going to have to. you know what I mean?
No choice.
Lithium is a finite source. Excuse me. I think the article said there's something like 80 million tons globally available. So yeah, we're going to eventually run out. We also need to remember there's a lot of other stuff using lithium-ion batteries far beyond just cars, okay? All of our consumer electronics basically are all smartphones, all that kind of stuff. That's actually sort of a mixed blessing because, yes, we're sourcing that stuff right now, but depending on the source, and there's a number of them out there, I'll use the American Chemical Society, they put it at about 500,000 tons of batteries, lithium-ion batteries, that are available for recycling annually.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So when you look at that, right now we're only hitting about 5% of this. We're never going to get to 100. We know that's not really feasible, but we know about 95% of these materials can be recycled. That'd be the equivalent of about 75,000 tons of lithium per year.
Yeah.
Conservatively speaking, we're looking at like 1.5 million cars potentially that we could use from those materials. Now, I know it's not apples to apples when you start recycling metals and stuff like that, but there is a solution here, I guess is my point. And I think if you're an OEM right now, in addition to looking at these sources, or working with the mining companies, Tesla's building a refinery. Yeah. Let's also look at some of these recycling technologies and see what we can do there in terms of getting people on board. Apple, Google, Samsung, Panasonic, some of these other big consumer electronics and battery manufacturers to start getting more aggressive with their recycling campaigns. Because if we really want to buy into this whole EV thing and eliminating or reducing emissions and all of that, this is one of the things we got to do. Yeah. So I think recycling is one of the areas where, in looking at all these obstacles, there is a potential solution there.
Well, and it's not if we want to buy into this EV thing. We've bought in, and we're heavily staked in it. And even if it is in the interim, it's got to work, right? Yeah. And Anna, I do find a little bit of encouragement in the fact that, when we look at what the major automakers are doing, Volkswagen and Honda, two of them are investing in recycling operations. So it's not just, this mad dash to buy into mines and processing facilities, but, some automakers, maybe not at the scale, but they are pursuing it.
For sure. And before I start, I just want to say how much I plan to use the term going forward. U.S.-China relations camel's back. Yeah,
of course. Rolls off the tongue.
It really does.
It's not... This isn't the straw that's breaking it. It's another one.
It's close. Yes, I agree with you, Jeff. The recycling component is important. It's great to see that we have some key automakers that are already saying, look, this is a priority for us. We're going to try to figure it out. I think the other thing that is important to look at is there are a lot of automakers who are trying to get beyond lithium right now. Yeah. And none of that is really ready. But I think we have to reinforce the need for sort of spreading the love on battery options. And if things work out pertaining to some of the numerous innovations that are in the works, then lithium isn't going to be stuck holding the water for everyone. So there are batteries in development right now that rely on salt or sodium, right? Magnesium. There's this concept about seawater batteries that I think there's like a lot of lithium in the water that they're trying to figure out how they can extract. Toyota has hundreds of patents already on solid state batteries. So my point is that you're seeing a lot of development there. For a while, the scary problem was nickel and cobalt as well. But where there's a will, there's a way. There's already a lot of really, I think, close to market ready battery options that are taking out cobalt and nickel. So if they need to remove these conflict materials, they will figure out a way to do it, I think, because with the pressure on these automakers, I mean, they're going to dump money into lithium or they're going to dump it into something else. There's no way they get out of this not doing that. So I do think that they're not going to wait it out and just plan on forever fighting over the same pool of resources. They need to have an exit strategy. I think a lot of them do. That said, it's going to take a lot of time to get around lithium. So in the meantime, that's going to remain king, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them to fight over those resources. But I do think down the line, we'll see some other options.
So GM also invested $650 million in a Canadian developer that's making the biggest U.S. mine in Nevada. So in return, GM says it's going to get enough lithium for 1 million vehicles a year. Do you guys think, Jeff, I'll start with you. Is it kind of a do or die situation where if you're an automaker and you're not staked in the lithium side right now, you're going to be in big trouble for even if it is this interim period where it's lithium only battery technology?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to get ahead of the curve. Without a doubt, we see this coming, and we're going to talk about some other things that companies are doing to sort of deal with this transition to more electric vehicles. You got to do something. Now, if you've got whatever that is, it can be different and unique for every company based on their operating dynamics. You know, not every automaker is going to have as many considerations with China. There are some that can get around that, to be real. I mean, Toyota, I think, can probably figure out some ways to make that work. So they are going to have to figure out something, whether it's recycling, whether it's going right to the source, literally, refining, whatever the dynamic is. Yeah, they're going to have to figure it out, because even if we get into sodium batteries, solid state, hydrogen is another big one that's been getting a ton of attention. This is the front runner. So you do need to figure something out.
Anna, do you think maybe that's why some of the automakers aren't making such big bets in lithium, is because they do see it as not a bridge to the next technology, but how it is a finite resource that maybe there's not going to be enough of it to go around. So they're just kind of spending their money looking for the next best thing?
I think they got to do both right now. That's was really my point, is that there's no way around lithium in the near term, I don't think. But they should have their eggs in more than one basket.
Right on. You had mentioned this too, but or Jeff had mentioned about Tesla building a refinery in Texas. I just want to remind everybody about what Elon Musk said in May 2022. He was at the FT Future of the Car 2022 conference. If you guys remember, when he said that Tesla is open to buying a mining company, and everyone kind of just like really piled on, just like, that's silly, and now that's what everybody's doing. Because at first when he said it, remember, it was just like, oh, what's this guy not going to do?
I don't remember piling on. Like,
no, I think when he says mining, everybody thinks of the Boring Company and something like that. So I think that may have been some of the correlation there. But also he throws out a bunch of wild stuff. So sorting through it, I could envision myself being critical of that statement. I definitely could have done that. I don't remember. But you're right. If he's kind of silenced the critics at this point, if that was something he was legitimately thinking about at the time, or still is, makes sense.
Another pull from the past is remember when Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe said that lithium shortages could be a bigger problem than the chip shortage? I was just kind of curious, isn't this different at all? Because we see this one coming, the chip shortage just kind of hit as a result of a perfect storm of things. But we have seen this coming. And it's like now everyone's moving real fast.
Yeah, I mean, but this has been forecast for many years already.
So no, that's what I mean. Is everyone saw it coming, and now everyone's making big moves to get something done. But
I think it's time, because the infrastructure has caught up with the production. Okay, they're actually scaling up production now, so they need the raw materials. Before it was we got to do something, but they weren't making anything.
Not many cars were coming out.
Stockpile it. The other thing, I think, not to, again, just put your head in the sand or anything, but we're going to get better in terms of our use of lithium as well. The lithium we use now, we see as, well, this is how much we need, because we need to have this type of battery range. We need to have this type of performance. We're going to get better. Ideally, we can stretch out, even though it is a finite amount, we can make it stretch out longer.
We're not going to need 17 pounds, hopefully, per car.
Well, and some of those are even more, but yeah.
All right. Well, our next most popular story this week: Lordstown files for bankruptcy, sues Foxconn. It feels like a long time coming, but the commercial electric vehicle startup has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The news comes about 2 months after Lordstown told everyone that it was in danger of failing. Much of it comes down to a deal the EV makers struck with Foxconn. In May, Foxconn didn't come through on a $170 million investment because Lordstown's value was in the tank. and in danger of being delisted. Lordstown didn't just file for bankruptcy, but the company sued Foxconn, detailing, quote, fraud and willful and consistent failure to live up to its commercial and financial commitments to the company. The lawsuit says Foxconn's actions led to material damage to Lordstown and its future prospects. Now, Lordstown is trying to sell off the Endurance vehicle and its related assets, but there is still hope, some hope, as the company claims to have significant cash on hand and is debt-free. Anna, I feel like we've already talked about this story. We've already predicted this endgame. We already predicted why and how, but to see its final realization, it's still kind of a bummer.
Yeah, those two are not getting along.
No. And it's just hard. It's hard to tell, or it's hard to ever foresee that with such a quality dance partner.
I know. So such a surprising story this week. Still, for being so wholly predictable, you hate to see it. I mean, I don't know, just sucks. But, to recap, this was such a chicken and egg scenario. Foxconn says that Lordstown is in breach of contract for its delisting, therefore won't provide critical funding. Lordstown says it got delisted because it doesn't have critical funding to operate. Mm-hmm. And once they were in this position, getting that stock price back up was like an impossibility, right? So you can see how Lordstown views this perhaps as, quote, willful and consistent failure to live up to its commercial and financial commitments to the company. The question is, why? Well, I think we were right in our predictions that Foxconn was in this deal for Foxconn and not to save Lordstown, but to maybe poach some assets. So according to TechCrunch, the complaint accuses Foxconn of pretending to support the Endurance pickup truck and future joint product development in order to secure ownership over Lordstown's most valuable asset, the Ohio manufacturing plant, and to poach some of Lordstown's skilled manufacturing and operational employees. The lawsuit adds that, quote, once it secured ownership of the plant and obtained a workforce to go with it, Foxconn refused to honor its obligations while at the same time causing Lordstown to devote substantial resources to the same cause. So what's next is Lordstown seeks a buyer, doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Likely. I mean, maybe, but, and then Foxconn can take over that factory to build EVs for foreign automakers who want to take advantage of the American-built EV tax credit. A very clever scheme. I think they got played, just like others who have done business with Foxconn. The question is, will this lawsuit bring some transparency to this company's business dealings? Will we learn more about what they're doing and finally answer the question for good and all, whether Foxconn is worth rolling the dice? And I think we've seen enough. Maybe this does. I mean, no matter how desperate the state or the Economic Development Agency or the failing company, have we seen enough to decide that Foxconn is, all about trickery and smoke and mirrors and not a useful partner for anything?
Yeah. Did they get played? Like, if you're dating a player, can you get played? Like, if you know that you're dating somebody that is a player and then you get played.
So you're just placing the blame on Lordstown for...
Well, I mean, I understand it.
They were in
desperate times, right?
Desperate times. They were in a terrible position.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was like cash infusion or go under then. So I get it. You're looking for a lifeline. But I mean, the other thing about that is poach employees. If you're there, I mean, I get it because you want to make sure you have a job, but do you want to work for Foxconn?
I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeff.
But I mean, like, if you work for Lordstown and there's no more Lordstown, I don't know, maybe you will. Maybe that factory is right in your town that you live in and it's the best option that you have.
You just change shirts, Jeff, and
you change shirts.
All of a sudden you're a Foxconn employee, and then when push comes to shove and the checks don't go to the bank, you're just like, they seem like such upstanding corporate citizens.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're going to be out of a job or somebody offers you one, I mean, you're at least going to take it for the time being, I guess. To say they still did get played, yes. Yeah. I mean, they had to be suspicious going in. It's interesting. We ran some stories this week talking about Stellantis also doing a joint venture with Foxconn on semiconductors. They've also done a joint venture with Stellantis on instrumentation and interior controls for vehicles. So we'll see how that one plays out. I mean, Stellantis obviously a bigger player than Lordstown. It is interesting that Lordstown did end up getting delisted when they filed for bankruptcy. That's sort of what happens, I guess. Yeah. Their stock price is up to $2.
I saw that $2.19. I was
get in
what
on
a
that.
recovery.
Gives them a market cap of just south of $35 million. Now, just play along with me here a little bit, okay? They file bankruptcy. All the debt goes away.
They don't have debt, right?
Yeah.
Well, it will go away if there is any.
Okay.
Yeah. They come out, they still own all the IP. They've only sold 50 trucks.
Not even.
Yeah.
Anyway,
whatever.
I got that one.
South of 50.
Yeah.
If you're struggling right now to come up with a competitor to that F-150 Lightning, don't you dip your toe here? I mean, don't you take a look at just not buying, you're not going to make it there, okay?
Yeah.
But just buying the IP. Because even if you spend $50 million on that, you're still going to be further ahead potentially than what you are right now. Because they actually have a finished product. Now, maybe it's not a great product.
Yeah.
The reviews are still kind of mixed on that. But it could put you further ahead than if you're starting from scratch.
Unless it's a lemon, man. Unless, because, I mean, remember they said that they had 500 that were ready to ship and ready to deliver, and then they're like, oh, no, we got to recall
They've also struggled with a lot of their numbers and forecasting. I mean, going back a ways here, that's not been a strong point. I'm just saying, now the other thing too, so probably not GM. They've already played in this pool, right? They're probably not too interested there again. Plus they've got the Silverado coming out next year. But if you look at somebody like Toyota, they're looking at 2025. Now, just play around with me. Look at the front end of Toyota's truck and the front end of the Endurance.
Okay. Are there some similarities?
Striking similarities.
Okay.
If I can ever find the pictures now.
Okay.
But just when you look at, so I mean, if you're looking at these two companies, again, Toyota needs to start competing. The F-150 Lightning's got a lot of market share for EV trucks right now, or it's the one that's getting the most headlines. Rivian's struggling. I don't know. I could see one of the bigger OEs looking to pick this up as a bargain, just to put their research and development a little bit further ahead than it might be right now.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you believe it enough to put some money on it? Because I do not believe that will happen.
At $2 a share, I mean, I'd roll the dice for a couple, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, people have made much more dangerous bets, I guess, for what'd you say, about $35 million?
That's what the market cap is. So to make the shareholders happy, you'd probably have to go up to maybe $3.50 a share or something like that. So you're still looking at a significant investment.
Yeah.
But again, if you're, depending on where you are in your development, okay, and you're looking for a bigger truck to put into your portfolio, which is what people want.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to see some big player come along and grab onto this IP, Tesla.
I do think that we're going to know the value of this IP pretty fast, you know, because it's either someone's going to take it. I mean, just because think of how much proprietary information goes into how they're built too. So maybe it is sort of like a square peg, round hole sort of situation where it's great IP and a great truck, but just the manufacturing process that it takes to make, doesn't fit the footprint.
I think that would be a huge part. And not to mention the fact that it's not been proven, really. I mean, this is still, in a lot of people's mind, the truck that got pushed down the hill.
It can run downhill.
They've sold 4 of them.
Yeah.
I guess
I
so.
thought, okay, that's 4. I saw 3 because I saw that. So they started sales in Q4 and at the end of Q4 2022, they sold 3. I was like, whew. I mean, I get it. If you're still working there, you're like, this is about to turn around.
Well, this could still be the delusional optimism. And every time we talk about Lordstown, everybody wants this to work. Maybe I've just got that hangover effect going. I still want it to work here.
Jeff's going to buy it.
Yeah. What is the value?
Let me just write a check for that.
Yeah. It's just also a stark reminder of either stop doing business with Foxconn or make sure it's really locked up because that company is so slippery. It's just it's the fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. We're on 12, and you're right. We when those stories came out this week and we saw the deals they were making with Stellantis, I'm just like, here we go again. Maybe, I don't know. All right. Well, our next most popular story this week. Baby Shark, Baby Shark's toy was recalled after a fin impales kids. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced a recall of 7.5 million Robo-Alive Baby Shark toys due to a risk of impalement, laceration, and puncture injuries in children. The problem has been specifically traced to small fins on bath and swim toys. When kids are playing with the toys in a bathtub or wading pool, they slip, fall, and sometimes just sit on the shark's hard plastic fin and have suffered impalement, laceration, and puncture wounds. The toys were made in China and imported by Zuru, a company in El Segundo, California. They were sold at multiple major retailers, including Walmart, Target, and Amazon. There's just a list of them. Zuru issued the recall after receiving a dozen reports of kids suffering pretty terrible injuries, including to the face and much, much more sensitive areas. So far, 9 children, I believe it's 12 now, have required stitches and other medical attention. And to receive a refund, consumers must disable the fin, either by cutting it off or bending it, marking the body with the word recalled and a unique recall code, and then uploading a photo so then they can receive a virtual prepaid MasterCard for the $14 they spent on this baby shark. Anna, aside from the weird process you have to go through to get your $14 back, it surprised me that you could have 7.5 million of these on the market, not realize you got a major design flaw. And it seems like maybe they did recognize it a little bit ago.
They may have, but first of all, I don't think it's that weird of a recall process. It's not super uncommon for a company that doesn't want you to ship them all back to have you destroy the product and prove that it's destroyed. Otherwise, people can file that claim over and over again.
Right.
Or
Gotcha.
they could continue to use the product. So in this case, at least they're being definned.
Gotcha. Yes, they are being diligent.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I do think maybe they had a little bit of a heads up on this before the recall. This incident is like extra sad, I think, because it involves kids. You kind of wonder, based on the reports, if anyone on the design or test team ever had a
kids?
child.
Yeah.
And like, that their movements are unpredictable and they're slipping and running around like crazy. And,
Well, yeah. If you have a child, you can pick up any object and know if there's inherent danger out of the package, right?
Well, I mean, any toy can be dangerous.
Yeah, gotta be careful there.
Any toy can be dangerous in the right small hands, but many don't impale or puncture you if you fall on them or sit on them, right? So, so they've been sold since 2019. It took a while to accumulate these reported injuries, though you wonder if there aren't so many more that go unreported just because kids get injured all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't always report that as a design flaw. It's something I never would have thought to do. Kids get hurt playing with their toys all the time, right? I'd say it's rarely happening that those are being reported. So probably more injuries, I'm guessing. But for me, the most interesting point about this recall is that Zuru apparently did change the design of this product earlier in 2023 when it began selling a version that had a soft silicone fin. The recall date occurred a few months after this modification hit the market. So they had been developing that for who knows how long before. And my question is, if there's no problem with the original design, why did you develop this change?
Why'd you make a change with likely more expensive part?
So to me, it's hard to believe that they didn't realize the risk prior to the recall. These products are also being sold in Australia where there has not been a recall. But, that said, recalling a product is not a fully realized solution either. A basic eBay search that I did before the podcast revealed that it's very easy to still buy this toy with marketplaces and resellers, especially permeating anything that's brand specific, like Baby Shark, right? You have fans of Baby Shark. So there's a huge gray market and resale market, even a secondhand market for that kind of stuff because it has that brand on it. And some people are just really into that. So it's really going to be hard to track people down with this message unless you see the press release or the coverage. You're not going to see that message. So unfortunately, I think these are they're just proliferated probably everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be hard to get them all definned.
But I will say, because it's a brand like Baby Shark, this has been making the rounds in terms of.
It has.
I mean, one of the things, Jeff, that following the CPSC, we get their press releases. We're on their website almost every day. Is you realize how many toys and other child-related items are on there on a daily basis. Everything from clothing that's
you should not be looking at these. Of all the people I know, you should not be receiving these or looking at these.
I'm looking at it for journalistic reasons. And it just so happens that like half of them you're like, you know, yeah, my child slept in that pillow. Great. But I mean, I guess my point was that we see a lot of these in child-related products, and it's, I don't know. Luckily, like I said, this one was Baby Shark, so that way I think ears naturally perked up from some parents because I would dare say that every child has at least one Baby Shark toy, right, Jeff? I mean,
no, my girls were after this. They did not get into Baby Shark.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I don't think that the teenagers have something.
I thought you were trying
to
make it relatable or something.
No, not trying to make it relatable. Just that because of the branding associated with this toy, that people heard about it and then immediately looked into it. Where sometimes we see things that are maybe not as popular and people might not investigate because, you know.
No, I agree. I think it's kind of interesting too with this it's plastic. It comes from China. I think there's usually a mindset of it's less expensive. It would probably break before it would hurt anybody. So it's kind of an interesting paradigm shift there in terms of it, I don't know, being well enough made that it could actually pierce the skin. I mean, that's kind of crazy. It's really disheartening to hear these types of words used when talking about a toy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is stuff that was usually reserved for like bayonet training or something. I mean, this is crazy. So obviously it gives you a lot of attention. You know, I thought the recall process was really interesting to me. I mean, especially for a toy like that, to take a picture and send it in and not have to deal with any of the shipping and stuff. I think it probably cut costs for the manufacturer big time, which helped them to respond more quickly. So if you did want to get your money back and recall, I think that was a solid process. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Agree.
To do it that way. So I think that was responsible as far as them knowing about it beforehand. And that's what triggered sort of the redesign. You know, that's an interesting one to try to dive into. You know, did they just see a potential design flaw in improving their product, or were they reacting to a potential recall down the line? We don't really know, I guess. But it really struck me that in looking at it, you would never have thought if I saw that in a package, I never would have assumed that was some sort of potential source of harm for my kid. It's crazy.
I don't know. I feel like it happens during birthdays and Christmas where they unwrap it and you either get that immediate red flag, like look at the corner on that house. They're going to fall on it backwards, puncture wound. But I mean, I understand that I don't have the same reactions.
Well, and it's like it's a nuance to it because you're not just looking at the design of the product, but you're also having to look at the application, which is in a slippery environment.
Yeah.
And that's typically where they were getting injured, I think, is kids were falling on top of it.
Yeah. Ping Fong, the company behind the Baby Shark phenomenon, is now worth $1.1 billion. And I mean, I guess once the first time you heard that song and then you had to listen to it like 30 times after, you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not more.
Just printing money. I find it fascinating that just the original music video alone still gets so many views that it creates $300,000 in revenue a month for the creators. That is sick wealth. The only other thing is that as part of the recall, they got like a prepaid virtual MasterCard. And that seemed like, I don't know, anything that adds a step in terms of like using the funds. I mean, I understand it. They can't like cut everybody a check. It would be interesting if it was an option where they could just direct deposit it or something like that. But there's so many times that you get those prepaid cards and you either don't use all of them or use them at all. It kind of made me look into like, there are $3 billion in gift cards that go unused every year.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You're going to give them your bank account information so they can direct deposit?
Well, I mean, you know, the account and routing number.
Just a Chinese manufacturer. What could possibly go wrong with them having your bank
like
account?
A good plan.
Or they could cut me a
Would
check.
be easier.
I'm just saying, I mean, they could cut a check too. I'd be fine with that. But I just like, when they say virtual MasterCard, credit card or whatever, I'm just like, That seems like something I would never use. But
you would cash a check.
I would get it and use it immediately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's part of the problem with this. Like the gift cards that go unused is that people that don't use them right away, they're just kind of like, I mean, I know I have a folder at home of like gift cards and those like Menards rebates.
This is a you thing.
How do you not use these?
I mean, I do. It's because
I
like
don't
you
want
get
to
them.
open an email and use a gift card, but I will take a check. Thank you.
I'll take a check. I'll deposit it.
All
right.
Send them to David in quarters.
Yes. All right, David.
Yeah, I want oily quarters at the bottom of my driveway. That's the only way I'm taking these refunds. All right, our next most popular story this week. Titan Submersible was a disaster that underscores the dangers of deep sea exploration. On June 22nd, 2023, rescuers spotted debris from the Titan tourist submarine on the ocean floor near the Titanic's wreckage. The vessel suffered catastrophic failure, likely an implosion, and the 5 passengers were killed. In a recent interview, Purdue University mechanical engineer Nina Mahmoodian, yeah, nailed it. Nina Mahmoodian, even though I looked it up previously, definitely that. She explained why we need to send down subs, but keep people on the surface when it comes to underwater research. Her team develops navigational and mission planning algorithms for long-term missions with minimal human oversight. Most underwater research is now conducted with remotely operated and even autonomous underwater vehicles because oceans are vast and months-long underwater expeditions are too expensive and dangerous with a human on board. They cost tens of thousands of dollars every day to operate. The application is actually an opportunity to see the real impact that technological advancements have outside of manufacturing, like miniaturization, sensing, power efficiency, and additive manufacturing. She described underwater gliders that are buoyancy-driven, autonomous underwater vehicles. They can stay underwater for months and collect data on pressure, temperature, and salinity as they go up and down in the water. All of these are very helpful for researchers to have an understanding of changes that are happening in the oceans. One of these platforms actually traveled across the North Atlantic Ocean from the coast of Massachusetts to Ireland for nearly a year from 2016 to 2017. And it did it all for about $200,000. It performed research that would have previously cost millions of dollars. Energy companies are also using remotely operated and autonomous underwater vehicles for inspecting and monitoring offshore renewable energy and oil gas infrastructure on the seabed. And next, we're going to see fleets of these underwater vehicles working together undersea. Jeff, because there is a disaster wrapped around this story, it's a very sullen story, right? But I think that she points out a lot of important things about safety when it comes to these type of vessels. And I also found it interesting to see how, when used appropriately, some of this technology that we see in manufacturing facilities is being used to do some pretty incredible work, save some incredible costs, and, the potential that it has for manufacturing applications going forward when we talk about fleets of drones monitoring manufacturing facilities.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously a tragic story, but I think one of the things that really captured my attention from this article is when you brought it up a little bit in the recap, talking about the expense that it has with crewed expeditions in terms of safety and life support systems and things like that. I think there's this element of wanting to have an explorer at the forefront of all of these things. When we climb a mountain, when we explore the depths of the ocean, we want to have that person we can look at, that, Jacques Cousteau type of individual that we can sort of champion and put forward.
Yeah, someone's got to plant the flag. Exactly,
as opposed to taking what is really a much more pragmatic approach in using all of these amazing technologies we have. That's what we do in space. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anybody plant when nobody was driving the Mars rover. Okay, it's all technology, it's robotics, it's wireless communication. Leveraging those same things, if exploring the ocean, which it seems like it is vital in terms of all the different things we can find out and source and understand our planet better, to investigate the ocean, why wouldn't you leverage all of those same technologies? We need to sort of put aside some of that explorer hubris, I think, and just rely on all these wonderful advancements we've made and trust them. Put together these scientific teams, put together the engineers and the scientists and the marine biologists, and let them do their jobs, which means they get to look at the data and understand what the machines are sending back to them. Take advantage of all that stuff. And that seems like something that was bypassed here, again, because we want to have this adrenaline rush or whatever the dynamic is. And in the process of doing that, in this instance, those individuals paid a lot of money for something that was not safe, that was sort of known to not be as safe as it could be. And all of those things that would have probably made that experience even more expensive or even more, I don't know, productive, would have put it at a cost that was unreasonable. They couldn't do it.
Right.
That's why we need to rely on a lot more technology to do this stuff.
No, I think out of this entire story, one of the most frustrating things has been everybody that has come out and said, we told them this wasn't safe. We heard this. We notified them that this was terrifying, that this was unsafe. And I don't know, I guess that's what's been the most frustrating part for me when it comes to these types of like underwater tourism, I mean, money grabs sort of. And this article or this interview in particular was, Anna, for me, a good reminder of at the research level, they seem to be doing it right.
Yeah. And, I think because it's not an apples to apples comparison, it is a very stark reminder of the fact, and what this article, the point that drove home most to me was that these underwater vessels that carry humans to the bottom of the ocean are wholly unnecessary. This was an exploration event. These weren't scientists. They were just going down there because they wanted to, and they had the money to do so. The article points out that we've uncovered ways to do this safely and autonomously. The technology is there to perform this dangerous activity, so humans don't have to because it's not suitable for humans. And I think the myth here, well, prior to this, but not now, is that this was an above-board company that was going through the proper channels to get this certified. This is perhaps not an activity that can be done safely. So I don't know. It was hard because this company exists, and because it got a lot of media attention, perhaps it gave people the impression that this was something where they've cracked the code.
Yeah.
And here you have this dynamic CEO who essentially became a dynamic salesperson to sell these once-in-a-lifetime missions. And despite the fact that these people signed a waiver, they didn't just harm themselves in this endeavor. The response cost was tremendous. Perhaps it seems callous to assign a dollar value to like a search and rescue effort. But if they were ill-advised to be there in the first place, I'm having a hard time with that. If you look at the Coast Guard said that they wouldn't provide detail on what their total bill was for this effort, but the estimate is in the millions of dollars, and that's just one agency. Not to mention that the people who put their lives at risk to go out there, and of course, I think these agencies should seek out people in distress, if they can, but it's kind of a crap situation to put these taxpayer-funded agencies in this position when you consider that this was a risky endeavor with no research value or scientific mission, right? And now NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, is being tasked with investigating this. This scenario, and they even admit we have no experience with this. That's a problem, I think, when the safety board is so out of touch with this, not because of anything that they did, but because it's such a one-off application. They don't have the resources to understand it, And can we really expect an agency like that to absorb every flying lawnmower, that somebody dreams up, right? It's a very novel experience, right? So
when we have these agencies in place to learn from these things that happen, these events, these tragic events that happen, what are we going to learn from this? Other than don't send people down there because we've got autonomous options.
No,
right.
I think what we learn from this is that there will always be thrill seekers and thrill-seeking tourism like this. But I think what you learn from this is that you can't cut costs with something like that. Or that maybe from a regulatory side, when people come to you with a few red flags, maybe you really pursue it to shut them down. Just because, on the opposite side, there have been times when I've gone skydiving and you get in that plane and you're just like, I don't know about this one. It's obviously used a lot and it's only used for this specific application. But it's like there are a couple of times where you're just like, it's not the newest. But, I think because of the inherent danger with what you're doing, you feel safe because you feel like there's no way that they would put me in an unsafe scenario.
I agree.
Like,
no, I
and
think
so-
that's why. I think that's why those people got in that vessel to begin with, is they thought there's no way that this isn't safe because I've seen this guy on TV.
Yeah.
Or, he's told me all these things and I've seen their operation, I've seen their factory, it just, this seems legit.
Yeah.
There need to be more safeguards for that consumer, who not just letting them sign a waiver and get inside this vessel. There's, it's not compliant in really anything. So yes, I agree with you. Those warnings need to go somewhere. It can't be just, on the business side to require them to check all these boxes, but also on the consumer side, how do they know that when they sign that waiver that what they're doing is completely like unsafe?
Well, isn't that, we talk about it all the time, and what is the term? It's like you go alarm deaf or whatever. What is it like?
White noise.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like there was a specific term when we had that story about
Alarm fatigue.
alarm fatigue. Thank you very much. I feel like it seems like everything we do, we've got to check a terms and conditions, or we got to check a liability. Even in softball, like when we play softball, you just check that box, like, oh, make sure that you read all the. So I think that like. You think that because they have that checkbox or that waiver that you're just like, oh, well, clearly everything's in order.
It's standard.
It's got to be safe. Yeah.
It's a legal, a legal thing that you have to do, and then that's it.
Yeah. So maybe it's kind of like our version of alarm fatigue, because it's just like you sign them with everything else. And then again, because they have that, you think that you're safe. I don't know. I mean, I listened to the people that walked up to this thing, looked at it and said, not a chance. But I mean, I understand if there are people that go in there and just meet the owner. I can't remember his name, but he's charismatic. They trust him, and then catastrophe strikes. No, not for Jeff. No, not for Jeff.
I don't.
You don't see. Well,
No.
I mean,
there's
but
personal. I don't want to speak ill of of this incident. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know these people. I don't know their situation, and I feel horrible for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk down on that or be insensitive to that situation. But there's a personal responsibility in every single one of these situations. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
This is not like checking a box to play softball. I'm sorry, like you can't make that type of
No,
comparison.
I'm making-
And no, I do not buy the argument of alarm fatigue for something at this level.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I'm just proposing that, like, maybe because we're always like signing a
I don't
liability
buy it.
waiver.
No.
Okay.
I do. But
Bad
I do.
decisions are bad decisions, and you have to be accountable for them.
Of course, but I do also think that society as a whole makes an assumption about a product's safety and viability if it is brought to market.
Yeah, if it's commercially available.
So if that is an option that's available to them, they in some ways just a baseline assumption that is okay.
If we're talking about going to the grocery store and buying a food item that ends up being recalled or whatever, I agree with you. Okay, in that context, I don't feel that applies here.
Okay, just because it is so.
The scale is so much more significant. You're doing something that's completely unnatural.
Yeah, but do
It
you
doesn't
know
apply
that?
to you. It doesn't apply to you, but
It doesn't apply to this situation. It just doesn't. It's a totally different environment.
But isn't this like going on? I mean, to some people, it's like going on a crazy roller coaster ride, right?
yeah,
There's
they got
no way, if you are at all educated about this situation, which you would hope somebody would do if they're going thousands of feet below the surface of the planet.
Yeah.
You would hope they would have done just a little bit of homework and understanding I am paying $250,000 to do something. This is a little bit outside the norm. And
Yeah.
if they weren't paying attention to all the different parameters there, that's based on their own personal decision. That is not based on alarm fatigue or any other societal concerns or issues. That's based on making a bad call.
See, but I think when you talk about paying $250,000 to go, I think that almost makes you less likely to look into it, because you're just like, I'm paying $250,000. It's got to be safe. I'm just saying.
Dude.
I'm just trying to say, like, because I get it. But like, I don't know. If you go on,
I think we get caught into this dynamic where we want to help explain why somebody would do this and sort of take the blame off of them.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't do anything wrong getting on to this thing, okay? Whoever designed it, set it up, I think they're at fault, okay?
Yeah.
Because as we've discussed, this is an unnatural thing here.
Thank you.
All of
Yeah.
these people, all of these researchers and scientists are saying, why would you do this?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. So for these 5 individuals to say, whatever, I'm going,
Yeah.
that's on them.
Yeah.
Nothing
Okay.
more than that.
Yeah. Seth, who's watching us live, it's good to see you, Seth, says, bad call. Okay. What? Just bad call in general.
I think he agrees.
Bad call. All right. Our most popular story this week. Ford is cutting hundreds of engineers to reduce costs amid transition to EVs. Ford is amidst another round of layoffs. On Tuesday, the company confirmed that it was starting to notify several hundred engineers and other salaried employees that their jobs are being eliminated. The firings come after 200 Ford contract employees got the axe last week. While Ford won't give a specific number, the cuts won't be as severe as last summer. That's when the company let go of some 3,000 white-collar workers and another 1,000 contractors, mostly in the U.S. CEO Jim Farley said this week's moves show that Ford is adapting to change more consistently. In a quote, Farley said, "It's more real time and not kind of big Titanic events," which, given the timing, not the best quote. Farley has said many Ford employees don't have the right skills to make the transition to battery-powered vehicles. Jeff, I believe we've talked about this. Actually, the first time he made that remark about not having the right skills to make the transition, I asked the same question. But again, it's like, if you're an employee at Ford that doesn't necessarily have a skill set that transitions to battery-powered vehicles, I mean, is it on you to retrain, or are you expecting the company to retrain you, or are you just biding time until they don't need you at 40 and you're finding something else?
Well, I'll answer that first and then sort of take you the direction I was thinking when I was going through the story. It's both, right? You would hope the company would identify talent and realize this talent is worth preserving and doing something to offer different opportunities. But it's also on that individual as well. If I'm the, charge of fuel injection technology for Ford Explorers, yeah, I'm probably looking down the road and kind of wondering a little bit how I might want to transition my skill set. Okay,
Yeah.
So I think it's a shared responsibility there. Mm-hmm. But I do want to position this to you. Okay, now I know you will never in your life ever be in a position where you are a human resources person. Okay, I think it's very, very safe to say. I feel very confident that's probably not a role you're going to pursue.
That's fair.
Okay?
That's fair.
Thank God.
It takes some upskilling.
So Ford has three divisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got E, Blue, which is the internal combustion stuff, and Pro, which is the commercial industrial side of it. So EV lost $2.1 billion. Blue generated $6.8 billion in revenue. Pro generated $3.2 billion in revenue. Mm-hmm. So you're coming to me and you're saying, Jeff, you're the engineer in charge of fuel injections for the fuel injection systems for Ford Explorers. We're going to have to let you go. And I go, wait a minute. Yeah. I work in the division that generated the most revenue of any in this company. Yeah. We got these guys in this other building, just lost $2 billion, and you're letting me go?
Yeah.
How does that work? How does that make sense?
You know what, Jeff? It's a changing landscape out there. Economically, we're reading the tea leaves here. And your role, while vital to the success of Ford, has been instrumental. And we thank you and applaud you for that. Here's your reference.
So I made sure that these other guys over here losing $2 billion have jobs, and you're cutting me loose.
Again, it's a part of the shift in company dynamic and structure. These sort of transitions happen all the time, and unfortunately, you just got caught up in the transition.
All right, I'm going to lead right into what I think Anna's going to talk about. Putting on the other side here, the EV side, they're saying, wait a minute, guys. These guys made $7 billion last year.
Yeah.
We lost $2 billion.
I mean, you're feeling safe.
How do we feel good about what's going on in this company?
I think you're feeling safer than ever right now, where they're just like, hey, man, they're cutting the ones making money just to keep us afloat.
I get what Ford is doing with sort of these increment, and I think it's a better strategy, quite honestly, to do whatever is a couple hundred here at a time as opposed to those huge mass layoffs that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
I just wonder internally what type of effect this has on the workforce. This could create some real awkward water cooler conversations here.
No, and we've been talking about this ever since they siloed those parts of the business, right? Where it almost like makes this natural competition, and where it could make these adversarial relationships. Because, I mean, I don't see that being an issue, worker to HR, but I do see that being an issue on the floor if there at all any sort of where there's any commingling, where it's just like, hey, what's up? Glad we created a company you're quickly sending to the bottom, right. So I could see that causing big problems with morale. Anna, when he used the language making more of a real-time adjustments versus big Titanic events.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he was trying to seem like, like not tech savvy, but more like forward thinking.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. It came off to me as having a different sentiment in terms of, this might be happening often and, going forward.
Yeah, and that's what I'd like if I were there. I think I would rather the Titanic events versus the piecemeal ones, just because it kind of sets the tone for what, now going forward. If it's piecemeal cuts, then... So if you look at like Ford, every time they cut jobs, it has an impact on their stock. It usually shows their shareholders that they're taking seriously their plan to cut operating costs. And perhaps they see it as less disruptive to unload people incrementally. But I do think there is risk to morale when you do that.
Yeah.
You're basically keeping people on a knife's edge where you can't exhale like, oh, I sidestepped that big. No, it's just like, oh, no. Well, we got some more coming. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this every 3 weeks.
It's real time.
Yeah.
It's real time. So you're never safe.
Exactly. You're never safe. Because they kind of make it sound like, well, this is business as usual now. It's just we're going to just lay off people kind of whenever we want. And you can't control how people respond to that message because you could lose some people that you want to lose who are like, okay, I'm out of here. But you could even more easily, I think, lose your top talent who are looking at that and thinking, I don't want to wait around to be fired.
Yeah.
It's a tough market to be in right now. I get that. There's immense competition to be first to market, to offer the most innovative vehicles that appeal to multiple buyer segments, to reach price parity with internal combustion engines, which I think once, people start to set like their goals like GM really did, then everyone is like hustling to catch up with that. Ford shouldn't be profitable on EVs yet. That doesn't even make sense. Like this is a huge sea change in their business and completely turned it on its head. But because they feel like the expectation is to like rush this to market now and be profitable, I think we're going to see a lot more layoffs. And if I were working for Ford, I wouldn't feel great about showing up to work every day and just assuming that I was in, a good place. He's basically said that he's ready to chop anybody at any time.
Yeah, especially when it comes to, I understand that there are some white collar jobs out there that might be less secure in the grand scheme of things. But when it comes to engineering talent, especially in the current skills landscape, traditionally, I would think that engineers would feel the most safe. Don't you think?
Yeah, but they also have a lot of opportunity to move elsewhere right now. So if you think that now suddenly things are a little bit unstable for you, then maybe it's time to see what else is out there.
No, Jeff, Anna makes a really good point about how if these cuts are going to be real time and a part of your normal workday, do you see talent, some of those people that you want to hold on to potentially fleeing because they don't want to, wind up on the chopping block?
100%. They're going to leave automotive. They're going to go someplace else. And that'll be, then not only does that hurt Ford, it hurts the whole sector because you are losing some of your brighter bodies,
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on to our In Case You Missed It segment, we have another word from our sponsor, Big Commerce. And we're back. And just a reminder that Big Commerce provides modern e-commerce technology that works with your existing systems. ERP, OMS, CRM, no problem. Whatever existing business tools and technologies you use today, Big Commerce can integrate using pre-built one-click integrations or customize your automation with its APIs. Make the move to Big Commerce today. All right, on to In Case You Missed It, the stories that maybe weren't as popular on our websites, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. I'll go first this week. I picked a story about how the Labor Department put up $7.5 million to retrain a bunch of former employees at a paper mill. The U.S. Department of Labor actually awarded more than $2.5 million to support employment and training services for people in North Carolina. These are people that were affected by the closure of Pacted Evergreen's Canton paper mill, as well as the company's reduction in operations at its Waynesville facility. Some 1,100 workers lost their jobs when the plant in Canton shut down. When Pactiv is also reducing staffing at its extrusion facility in Waynesville, it is seeking, quote, strategic alternatives for the plant. So they're trying. The award is the first increment of a national dislocated worker grant worth some $7.5 million that will allow the state to provide retraining and skill development for dislocated workers. Pactiv announced the plant closure in March 2023 as part of an effort to restructure the company's beverage merchandising operations. The company is a major North American manufacturer of fresh food and other beverage packaging. I picked this story this week just because I guess it seemed like the best example of making lemonade out of lemons. I like to see it when you see our tax dollars doing something that could be a real benefit to employees that are otherwise kind of just put out of work. And not just employees, but like an entire community. This is like the entire town. So I really liked that there are these grants available from the Department of Labor. I like it when there are actual steps they're taking to train. You know, sometimes they just kind of give the money to a bunch of community colleges and try to figure it out, or like they say they're going to have job fairs, but they're like actual skills and training that they're going to do for people to try and get them into other industrial roles for a manufacturing industry that, let's be honest, like there are homes for all 1,100 of these employees right now. Yeah. Anna, I don't know if you had a chance to check out this story, but it seemed uplifting after a story that, you know, really has been around for the last, you know, few months of the workers just kind of thinking like waiting for the slow closure, you know? Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what the reskilling was.
Yeah.
Do we know that?
We don't know what the reskilling was. And I mean, for that matter, you're right. Maybe it is. I
mean, I don't know. I'm not going to.
It's going to be like resume building.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to speak negatively about the program because potentially it has provided a big value to these folks. I'm just curious, like, are there general skills or do they apply to like certain businesses? And if so, is maybe the business better suited to do that? I don't know.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's and I think that it might be a good combination because Pactiv is also on the other side providing severance. They're doing local events, including the education and career days. They're also working with local officials to try and repurpose the mill. So I guess between the two of them, between the company and between the communities, because it helps dislocated workers in, I don't know, like a dozen different counties. Mm-hmm. I guess I was hoping between the resources that the two are providing, you know, maybe a good number of the people could wind up back on their feet. Mm-hmm. But to that, I don't know the specific skills they were providing. You're right. It could just be like, you're going to receive a tutorial on Microsoft Excel.
Which is valuable information.
Valuable information, but Jeff, I guess hopefully these are not millions of dollars going to teach people how to comment on a Word doc.
No, I kind of have a hard time believing that. I think and the reason I say that is the vast majority of anybody, and I'm generalizing here, if they were working in a manufacturing facility, they want to continue to stay productive and contribute and do something on a day-to-day basis that makes a difference. And when you're looking at individuals who are willingly going to new job training, they're going to probably gravitate towards something that gives them a type of skill that makes them more marketable out there, or they're going to get that type of guidance. So I'm going to look at it with a glass half full perspective and say that's kind of the route that this was taken.
The blanket is dry today.
I think, the thing that's most encouraging too is you see money going in this respect as opposed to other potential programs that don't allow people to be proactive in seeking out other career paths, okay? Yeah. There are some times where there's funds available for people to take care of their family and stuff, but don't involve getting a new job. Oh, yeah. This allows them to they don't just get the fish, they learn how to fish as well.
Oh, so. All right. I see what you're doing there, Jeff. Well, again, we've been covering more of these stories recently, and I don't know. Compared to government spending, right? Like $7.5 million is.
Nothing.
I don't even know if people have to like sign off on that. Is it just like is it petty
it's in the cash drawer?
Yeah. All right. Well, Anna, what is your in case you missed it this week?
I chose a video that our colleague Nolan produced about a drone that's been designed to fly into fires. It's still in development at a Swiss research institute and an English university that are working together. It's a specialty drone that could analyze fires at very close range and relay that information back to firefighters. It's called Fire Drone, obviously, right? And the researchers involved say it's an experimental quadcopter that's made with temperature-resistant materials. It's designed to provide data from a hotspot, which would allow firefighters to create a strategy about going into that fire without having to be so close, right? And kind of knowing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So apparently there's drones out there that can already capture the photos. They can lift fire hoses. They can spray chemicals. But if they get too close to the blaze, then the heat melts their frame and electronics and stuff. But this, it's like a lab called EMPA's Building Energy Materials and Components Lab. They synthesized an insulating material that made the drone more fire resistant, which was inspired by animals that live in extreme temperatures, such as Arctic foxes and penguins.
Oh, I love biomimicry.
Isn't that cool? They said that the animals, because they possess corresponding layers of fur and fat that enable their survival in harsh environments, they were able to kind of mimic that design.
Wait a second. Is this drone furry?
I don't know if it's a furry. I feel like the fur would burn off.
Yeah.
So it would be a very temporary fur coat, but
the fire drone has a layer of blubber and fur. It is a very non-traditional
I think
drone.
you're going a little too literal there.
I mean, it's in development. I'm just saying, well, it's probably a prototype.
The drone is not vegan. We know that. It is made out of blubber. So anyway, this lab is engaging in discussions with potential industry partners, they said, to develop the prototype a little bit further. So, scientists are saying that forest fires are going to become increasingly more common. I think we need all the tools possible in our tool belt to help. Mm-hmm. We need clean air. We need trees. Yeah. And not to mention more people will find themselves in the line of these fires and fighting these fires. And it's just, So and in fact, I read recently that State Farm has determined that they can no longer issue new homeowners insurance policies in the state of California, in large part because of the fire risk. Isn't that crazy? So being able to send something autonomous and fireproof into these fires is, that could be an absolute game changer, not just in analyzing them, but, perhaps in the future, maybe being armed with fire extinguishing agents and being able to really get in there. And also this new material that they're developing could have application for, firefighting, general firefighting or other emergency scenarios as well. So I kind of look forward to seeing where this one goes.
No, and if there is ever a time where we're very aware of the impacts of wildfires, I would say that it's been this last week for us. Being in Wisconsin, having, in Madison, competing day to day as to who has the worst air quality in the world, us or Chicago. Mm-hmm. It has been a dismal few days in Madison. And so when I see something like this, that, again, right now would be used for analysis, but could be used for any sort of suppression or steering it. I don't know. I get encouraged. There is a little bit to the design that's a little bit cooler when there's a little bit of biomimicry involved. I don't know. Jeff, I'm a sucker for any story where they're just like, we looked at a penguin and we're like, we've been doing it wrong the whole time.
No, I'd agree. And I also want to go out on a limb and agree with Anna. Oh. Trees are important.
I know, the easiest.
Jeff,
they are. Don't forget about clean air, Jeff.
Trees are important.
We have never agreed, and now we are agreeing about trees.
We can agree on trees.
Yeah.
How about? Do you guys
I like them.
Differ on the clean air part of that?
Whoa, hold on.
Lukewarm.
Do you like ice cream?
I do like ice cream.
Jeff! Oh, we're finally getting somewhere.
David,
you guys keep deflecting from the air question. I ask about clean air and you're like, what about ice cream? It
all comes together.
Understood.
Clean air is important too, David. I'm going to go out on another list and say clean air is important.
We just needed to get it on the record.
Okay. We all agree.
I think they misnamed it. I think Hotspotter would have been a better name.
Hotspotter?
The Hotspotter. Firefly.
If you want to email them, it's a...
Firefly is good. Hotspotter's a little too close to that ShotSpotter, which wasn't that the gun they made to shoot down drones? So that might have been.
I thought that was the police, the law enforcement tool.
Is that one? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. But no, you're right. A little bit of a miss, but fire drone.
No, great use of the technology. Again, autonomous technology, more information. And like you guys were saying, it goes beyond just firefighting. It goes into a lot of other environmental data gathering opportunities too.
Yeah. Making sure that your neighbors to the far south can breathe outside. Jeff, what is your in case you missed it this week?
I picked this story. Google donates $20 million for cybersecurity initiative. Google CEO Sundar Pichai pledged $20 million in grants to support and expand the consortium of cybersecurity clinics to introduce thousands of students to potential careers in cybersecurity, while also helping defend small government offices, rural hospitals, and nonprofits from hacking. Michelle said the new initiative addresses both the rising number of cyber attacks, up 38% globally last year, and the lack of candidates trained to stop them. You guys know I do the Security Breach podcast. When I saw some of these stats that are in this article, this is globally, this is overall. The stuff in the industrial sector, you can at least double it.
Wow.
When you look at the number of attacks, especially ransomware attacks have just crushed the industrial sector since 2020. And one of the biggest issues is finding people, especially because when you look at cybersecurity in the industrial sector, then we need OT security people. We want to try to cut and paste some of these IT approaches over to the operational technology side. It doesn't quite work, which leaves more and more manufacturers very vulnerable. I think one of the things that was cool here too is they talk about educating smaller organizations, smaller hospitals, smaller manufacturers, that they are not immune to this. They are on the radar just like anybody else. Supply chain disruption has proven to be has become such a part of the common vernacular. Hackers know this too. So they know if I can knock out this small little casters manufacturer in Eustis Ford, Wisconsin, that affects a number of people upstream and downstream. And guess what? They're going to pay me. And I can probably hit them again in 6 months because they think they're done.
Yeah.
So these types of initiatives, $20 million isn't going to solve the problem overnight. But when we look at a gap just in the industrial sector of maybe 100,000 cybersecurity specialists that we need now today, it's encouraging to see somebody like Google step in and play a bigger part in trying to get more students interested in the career, get them looking at more diverse applications of cybersecurity skills beyond just financial institutions, but the hospitals need them badly. Industrial sector needs them badly. Infrastructure entities like our wastewater treatment and utilities need them as well. So I was encouraged to see it, and hopefully it's just a start. Hopefully we see other companies really get involved with this as well, because at the end of the day, when we have all this data flying around, all this personal information flying around, and the people that can get in there and just wreak havoc on systems and just disrupt day-to-day functions, it's scary.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get more people trained, and this is a start.
Well, it's a start, but it's also a $20 billion start. So
Pretty good one.
It's a heck of a
20 million. Million.
What did I say?
You said billion.
Oh, sorry. There's a B here.
Yeah, it's 20 billion. I'm sorry. I put it wrong on the notes.
Oh, no
My
worries.
bad.
Never mind. It is but a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I was like, how do they have all that money to donate?
Right?
Something is
just like that's going to create some real change. But okay. So 20 million can still
a lot.
Still a lot of change, right, Anna? You know, we're going to get a lot of cybersecurity for 20 million. So.
Yep, you will. Yep.
Okay. Your thoughts on this, and because for me, I think of people that are currently in school now, and I do think of people that have. I do know people in my life who have gone back to school to get trained in certification, whatever it is, in cybersecurity to pursue that career path because it is so promising. So I see stuff like this, and I think there's an absolute need and demand, and there are people that want to fill those roles. For
sure. And I also was pleased to see the notes about rural hospitals and smaller businesses who just don't have the training in-house. You worry that puts a target on their back because they're smaller, and maybe the hackers see that it would be an easy mark.
So they absolutely see it.
Yeah. So some of that, it just, what other way are we going to tackle that? Somebody has to step up, and, it was good to see Google doing that to kind of lead the charge there.
All right. Well, let's move on to final thoughts before we get out of here this week. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
So we are closing down for the 4th of July week. This is a PSA to you, our listeners, that we will not be available next week. And during that time, I will not be responding to any emails, no matter the email
None,
content,
huh?
not a single one.
All right. Me too.
Yep, I'll be up in the North Woods with my husband and kids and just like, I don't know, beaching every day and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to it.
And as part of that PSA, so we won't be recording the podcast live on Thursday. We'll be recording the podcast live on that Monday afternoon, and it'll be coming out Tuesday a day later. So also part of the PSA, and have a good time up there. Like, one of the things I wanted to say was that this last weekend we were up north at our cottage, and we had cups in the lake, and my boys and I and my nephew played for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you can keep it simple. Also, if you're pretend fighting with kids, I forgot how exhausting it is to like act like they hurt you, but then still fall and protect yourself and them at the same time. And like sometimes if you're in water, you don't know there's a stick underneath you, and it just straight down my back, man. It was like I fell on like a nail, but it was really
Like
just
you fell on a baby shark
I
toy?
was just
a
gonna
little
say,
baby shark toy. Cut me down. No, Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
We will also be heading up north. Looking forward to that. And kind of that combined with a story that was on the site here kind of got me thinking we could maybe have a little bit of a dialogue about a very potentially controversial topic.
Oh, no.
About up north?
No, about when I go up north, one of the big things I love to grill out pretty much every day almost. And, there's always the condiment selection. What do you put on your hot dogs, brats, hamburgers, whatever? And I saw that Pepsi has come up. How do you say ketchup? Basically, it's Pepsi ketchup.
Oh, ketchup.
Ketchup?
Oh, why?
How do you feel about a Pepsi ketchup combo condiment?
I feel sick, Jeff.
I know you would say that because you hate soda.
I do hate soda,
but you drink seltzers by the ton.
Oh, no, if this was a seltzer chup, I'd try it. Or if this is a ketchup-flavored seltzer, no, maybe I'd try that too. But no, this is an abomination that brings our culture down a peg. Anna?
Mm-hmm. Do I get to participate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I do not want to try it.
What turns you off to this one?
Is that a real question?
They're trying to say they're putting this in like 4 different baseball stadiums. I mean, they're like getting behind this.
It's the Pepsi part.
You don't like
100% the Pepsi part. The ketchup part, I am fine with regular ketchup.
I guess I don't know what cola really tastes like. Is cola a natural fit for ketchup with like a tomato?
I mean, I can see
paste?
how it fits together because it's sweet, and you could almost like a barbecue type thing potentially.
Okay, so we're just putting barbecue sauce.
It's like it'd be like a sweet ketchup is what I'm anticipating.
Did you set us up like, hey, you guys, check out this crazy thing? Why don't you like it?
Right?
No, I'm just curious. I thought there'd at least be like, well, maybe, but you guys are just like, man.
You're gonna like make us, me sloppy joes with like cola chup.
I would not buy a bottle.
He's gonna
I'm just
stand
saying.
there with his like apron on and just be like, what do you think?
He's enjoying it.
I knew it.
He doesn't even know.
Yeah, it's
just ketchup, David.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, so you would try this cola chup?
I would try it. I have to admit, it does not sound overly appealing.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting swing. I don't know.
One of the great parts of having Food Manufacturing Magazine in the fold is that, dude, companies are taking big swings all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like some of it, I think they do specifically for press like this. Like I can't imagine Pepsi's just like,
1,000%. Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, they ban out like the Bojangles seltzer.
Yeah, chicken seltzer? Yeah.
Chicken seltzer. Oh my God. Okay. So no, we were talking about that. Last week on the podcast. And when I got up north, it's a huge family event. Everyone's there. And there is what looks like, how like a 12-pack of like Diet Pepsi looks, like it's kind of a big rectangle or whatever. So there's a big gray rectangle and it just says KFC on the side. And I'm like, no, someone found KFC seltzer. And I was so excited. And it turns out that it was a log, like a scented log that you put in fires.
Yeah, there's like a KFC smelling log.
Yeah. And
really?
It is
sounds horrible.
It is. It's so bad. Like it's compressed, recycled cardboard with whatever the seasonings are.
Yeah.
And like what was weird was as we're burning it, people would keep jumping in the smoke like, no, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. It's just like, it kind of smells like we're burning garbage and paying to burn garbage. But no.
Oh, that sounds like an
All
amazing.
right, well, I will get a bottle of this cola chip and
I said,
Take it
see
up
what
north.
happens.
yeah.
Can I just say something about up north that is funny? That
Yeah,
it's funny that we all just like scatter up north to different places
Mm-hmm.
when we're on vacation. But one time I was on a phone call with I don't know, somebody in the industry, and they were like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I said, "Oh, we're going up north." And they were like, "Don't take this the wrong way, but you are up north." And it made me laugh so hard because I never thought, because we don't think that we are up north,
Yeah,
but
no.
we are actually.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at a map,
Yeah.
we're up there, but
Yeah. No, we're
it's not north enough for us.
We're in
though.
the heart of it.
Yeah, we got to get further north. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
But what's also weird to me is how like where we're going, the air quality is actually better, even though it's closer to the fire.
Yeah, it's much better.
Based off of where we are related to the Great Lakes, it's all right.
Oh, that's the deal.
Yeah, so it's the
So
Great
I'm
Lakes.
actually going western Wisconsin, so I should be in.
You should be better.
shape.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
My final thought is that hopefully, as long as everything goes smooth, we're closing on our house, and it's just feels like the end of an era. But really liking the new place, and if you have, I just want as another PSA maybe, if you do have a pond at home, and you ever think you're gonna move to a place that doesn't have a pond, it is remarkably difficult to get rid of fish. And so just think twice about it, man. Don't leave your house. No, it is, of all the things in terms of moving an entire family and decades worth of stuff into a new home, the logistically most difficult thing so far has been getting the fish out of the pond and rehoming fish. And I understand.
They're koi. They're pretty good size.
Oh yeah, no, they're decent sized koi fish, and everyone keeps telling me like, you're giving these away. There's so much value. I'm like, I can't get people to take them for free. Maybe that's it. Maybe I should have
thinking about just taking a bucket down to the zoo and dumping them in that pond down there.
The zoo, actually, my father-in-law offered his creek. We've received a lot. We've received a lot of information or recommendations, like loyal listener Seth is offering, which is frying pans love fish. And Seth, let me tell you.
Well played, Seth.
Let me tell you how
Well
you're
played.
just as funny as everybody on Facebook Marketplace and all of our friends in our feed, where it's just like, I got a frying pan that might want one. Or just like, I tell you what, why don't you bring a 5-gallon bucket over on a Friday and I'll bring the potatoes. And it's just like, okay, that is hilarious. I need to get
But
the first time.
Yeah. Well, and also like the nature of a feed, right, is that you can read the other comments, right? So once Seth has made the joke, and then like the 9 people underneath make the same like, let's eat them joke, I'm like, come on, be more creative. I did consider like bringing them to Lake Michigan and ruining the entire ecosystem, but
yeah,
thought
you
better of
can't.
it.
You can't do that.
Yeah, but I had pictures of like Princess Silver being pulled out of Lake Michigan and being like the size of a truck someday.
She would be giant then. Yeah.
Just like, she made it, Des.
Does she? You have names for him?
We do.
That's a mistake.
All of the gray ones are Princess Silver. Like, it's just like, look, it's Princess Silver. I'm like, we've actually given like 8 Princess Silvers away already. But no, yeah, there's a bunch of, they all sort of have names.
Jeff is going to serve you Princess Silver with cola chup.
Yeah, cola chup and slaw, and a good slaw. And we have trivia. We have trivia again. So, no winner last week, and I fear that I might have scared people off because I said that the week previously somebody answered it before I was even back at my desk. So we had no winner this week. So no matter what time you listen to this podcast, you might still win a pair of shoes from Cat Footwear. Last week's question was, match the famous guitarist with the guitar manufacturer they are most known for using. It was Slash, Jimi Hendrix, George Harrison, and it was Fender, Gibson, and Rickenbacker. Obviously, Slash, Gibson, Jimi Hendrix, Fender, and George Harrison, Rickenbacker. So no one got it this week, which
Obviously.
means, well, I guess
No one got it.
the
obviously.
only. Well, I say obviously because music connoisseur Andy Zoll like stopped me before I got back to my desk, and he's like, "It's this, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. No, you're 100% right." So I was expecting a winner before I sat down, and just no one got it right. So we're gonna do another week Cat, again, one of the biggest heavy equipment brands, and they're giving out a pair of shoes that they hope to, power a community of doers, builders, creators, and problem solvers. And the winner this week, if there is one, if anyone can get it right, will win a pair of Cat Footwear Invaders work shoes or Threshold or Second Shift work boots. It's winner's choice. So whoever gets the answer first and sends it to me, you get a free pair of shoes from Cat Footwear. This week's question from Nolan Beilstein, resident trivia expert, is match the company with the bowl game they sponsored in the 2022-2023 college football season. The bowl games are the Cotton Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, and the Pinstripe Bowl. The companies are Goodyear, Valero, and Bad Boy Mowers. Jeff, you know this one right away?
I do.
All right. Match the company with the bowl game they sponsored in the 2022-2023 college football season. Football bowl season. Here are the bowl games: Cotton, Alamo, Pinstripe, the companies, Goodyear, Valero, Bad Boy Mowers. Send me the right answer. Get yourself a pair of Cat Footwear. All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can join Seth talking about how I should murder my fish and eat them, despite 8 years of loyal companionship. You're a monster, Seth. All right. Well, for Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.